Because I was really very afraid of the unit chief. I never dared to speak to him, and usually I tried my best to complete the work quota as soon as possible.
This is a story of Phea Heang, who was born and raised in Tram Kak district, had life as a farmer in his homeland peacefully, but after Khmer Rouge took over, Tram Kak was entirely changed to the oppressive land. The people were eager to escape every moment. Eventually, Phea Heang survived with endurance after the fall of the regime. This is Krahaam Podcast, a documentary storytelling journey where Cambodian Gen Z return to the Khmer Rouge regime through lived stories, honoring resilience and passing memory forward. And this season, we retrace the Khmer Rouge common purpose, the so-called Great Leap Forward, to understand how it was designed, how it unfolded, and why it still matters today. If Angka called Tram Kak a model of success, why did the citizens living there remember it as a place of fear and survival? In this episode, the story is reported by Tong Chhenghong. This is a heavy topic. Tune in when you are ready.
Phea Heang was born and raised in Tram Kak, Ta Kau province. Grew up inside a cooperative Angka proudly called a model. That label shaped everything. Who had slightly more, who received the heaviest work, and who remained under constant suspicion. Phea Heang tended cows by day and pulled rice seedlings by night. His work did not begin at sunrise or end at sunset. In testimony before the Extraordinary Chambers in the Courts of Cambodia, ECCC, in 2015, Phea Heang described how work quotas are structured every hour of the day.
For agricultural work, it started from 4 o'clock in the morning and it concluded at 12 or 1 p.m. to finish plugging 1 hectare with 4 plugs. Usually when it was time to conclude the work, a bell was rang, and that's when we knew that it was the noon time, that we had to conclude the assigned quota.
Phea Heang experience was part of Khmer Rouge Common Purpose in Action, designed to serve national agricultural production goals. What Angka promoted as a model cooperative, in reality is a system of forced collectivization, surveillance, and tight control. It was a structure that the court later ruled amounted to crimes against humanity. During the Khmer Rouge regime, Cambodia was divided into zones, sectors, districts, and communes. In 1976, 3 districts were publicly designated as model districts. Tram Kak was one of them, not praised by the people who lived there, but by Angka. Tram Kak was the most extensively documented and among the most tightly controlled under Tamok, a senior leader of the Khmer Rouge. In the mid-1970s, Tram Kak became a showcase cooperative. The regime praised its discipline, productivity, and ideological purity. A red flag was raised in its honor, and delegations from other cooperatives were sent to observe what the regime calls its success. To Angka, the flag marked achievement, but behind the image of order and productivity was a hidden human cost. Empty kitchens, exhausted bodies, and families no longer living together. Being labeled model did not protect people. It intensified control. Tram Kak had already been collectivized by 1973, even before the Khmer Rouge seized national power. When Angka demanded proof that collectivization could succeed, Tram Kak was presented as evidence. To meet national targets of 3 tons of rice per hectare, the district aggressively expanded wet and dry season production. In testimony before the court, former Cat 3 Pacham described how Tram Kak was presented as a success.
We successfully did great farming because we could achieve almost 3 tons per hectare.
Traditional villages were eliminated. The population was reorganized into cooperatives of 300 to 1,000 families. Labor teams were mobilized under party's order to collectivize property, expand rice fields, and enforce discipline. A land survey team moved through all 15 communes to identify sites for dams and canals as part of Angka's agricultural program. Orders flow from district to commune to the work unit. Nothing was voluntary. Pacham explained how these orders were enforced.
That was the plan by Angka. It was rendered down to the people to ensure that this quota could be achieved. And I also was engaged in ensuring that it was achieved.
On paper, Tram Kak irrigated up to 4,000 hectares of dry season rice. But farmers like Phea Heang knew the truth.
As far as I know, I am a farmer. We could not produce the 3 tons per hectare. We could not achieve that.
The court found that production targets were knowingly unrealistic and imposed through coercion, punishment, and deprivation rather than agricultural complexity. And Tamok played a central role in enforcing forced collectivization and mass labor policies. Work often began before sunrise and continued late into the night. During peak seasons, people labored until 10 o'clock. Bells marked for us. If targets were not met, work continued. Phea Heang described constant supervision at work sites.
The unit chief and the group chief would always supervise and watch their members to see if work was progressing or not.
Even children were assigned heavy tasks, tending animals, carrying soils, collecting dung. Rest was minimal. Hunger was constrained. While Angka focused on meeting agricultural targets, daily life in Tram Kak was also organized around food, labor, and medicine. Meals came from communal kitchens. Phea Heang recalled how food was distributed.
We were told to go to the kitchen and we got a plate of rice and a large bowl of soup for 10 people.
Illness was not treated as a medical condition. It was treated as a political failure. Medical care was almost non-existent. Trained doctors were removed and sent to labor. They were replaced by untrained medics who follow orders rather than the medical practice. Phea Heang testified that medical care was almost non-existent and people were given only small pellets, medicines in name but not in effect. Family life was dismantled. Men, women, and children lived separately. Children rarely saw their parents. Family connection was framed as dangerous and a sign of private interest. Some parents disappeared without explanation. None of this happened by accident. After 1975, when cooperatives were enforced nationwide, Tram Kak became a testing ground for how completely society could be reorganized. At that time, Tram Kak's population ranged between 80,000 and 250,000 people, including thousands of evacuees from Phnom Penh and other cities. At this point, people were divided into 3 strict categories: base people, candidates, and new people. Each was assigned different levels of trust, labor, and food. Full rights or base people were long-time rural residents trusted by the regime. Candidates were closely watched. And new people, the city evacuees, faced the hardest labor and the least food. Land, rice, times, bodies, and decisions all belong to Ong Kak. Discipline was enforced through fear. Resting too long, complaining, or attempting to reunite with family could lead to punishment, heavier labor, reduced rations, public criticism, or disappearance. The court concluded that what occurred in Tram Kak was not an isolated case, but the local implementation of a nationwide plan, enforced through powerful figures like Tam Mok. Nuon Chea and Khieu Sampon were found criminally responsible for creating and directing this system. In Tram Kak, survival became conditional on obedience. What Ong Kak called a model cooperative taught Sao Hien one lesson above all. Silence kept him alive. Endurance was not a choice, it was survival. If we look at today, Tram Kak is a chill and quiet place familiar with the past. Rice fields stretching to the horizon, small roads, quiet village, people living simple and rural lives. It's still a place that very much depends on agriculture, in which many families earn their income from farming. As we stand on the beautiful calm land of Tram Kak today, it's impossible to not think about the rough path people had to live through during the Khmer Rouge. The same beautiful field today was once a place filled with forced labor, starvation, separation, and execution. If we compare life from 50 years ago to today, we can see the pain people have to go through is like the sacrifice from Khmer people in the past just to get the peace we have today. This is a valuable lesson for the younger generation to know about the history and to not take things for granted. So the history can stay truthfully where people can learn to live in peace without going through the same pain like before.
We have listened to the life and work as a cooperative in the model district, Tram Kak. But have you ever heard about the life and work of the soldiers at the airfield during the Khmer Rouge regime before? The story is produced by Yama Doungchanvatey, reported by Tong Chhenghong, scripted by Phea Seak Heang, researched by Mom Monika, and our editor, Nathana Johana. Supervised by Hean Socheata and Nov Povleakhena. Krahaam Podcast is the product of a final assignment submitted for the broadcast journalism and podcast production at the Department of Media and Communications of the Royal University of Phnom Penh. Thanks to the ECCC Resource Center for extensive support through the research of the Judicial Archive. Until next time.